Okay, so today is going to be a different kind of episode, and I'm going to talk to you about how I teach my kids about money. And so hopefully if you have kids or you're thinking about having kids, you can get some ideas here to teach your kids about money. And so this one's going to be different. But before I jump in today's show, if you are a real estate wholesaler and you are looking to do big, fat, juicy deals, you're looking to have a business that will throw off cash month after month after month without your personal day-to-day involvement, head on over to nextlevelwholesaling.com, and there you'll find the Next Level Wholesaling Assessment. It's going to basically, it's a questionnaire, and it's going to rate you in the 4 core areas of your wholesaling business. And after you're done, it takes like 5 minutes. It's 100% confidential. It's going to be abundantly clear in that very next step that you need to take to get off the treadmill, to start making a lot more money and get a ton of freedom in your business. So go to nextlevelwholesaling.com. All right, so let's get into the meat of this episode, right? How to teach your kids about money. And so all of this is from my personal experience, but also it's from my experience watching my dad, who was an entrepreneur. And so I had the benefit of watching my dad. Most of the stuff I got from my dad was caught, not taught. And I was able to take some of that with my own experience and kind of package this for my own kids. And so I want you to take this, take the best, and give it to your kids, right? And if you think of something cooler, something better, something I can add to this, please let me know. Maybe I'll do a follow-up episode on this. So hit me up at Todd Toback at Instagram or support at NoLimitsRealEstateInvesting.com. All right. So number one is you got to teach your kids the value of money. And so on several occasions, my kids, they'll ask me, Dad, are we rich? And I said, why'd you ask me that? She says, well, one of my friends called us rich. And number one, I say, well, we're rich in the Lord, right? You got a roof over your head. And obviously mom and dad have 2 vehicles. We've got cell phones. We go on family vacations. And so we are just so blessed. So me and mom, we're comfortable. And I got this one from Dave Ramsey. And I said, but you guys, it's not we, it's me and mom. We're comfortable. And we know how to make money work for us, okay? Not the other way around, right? And hopefully when you're older, okay, you'll be able to do the same things with money that mom and dad do, okay? And I can't wait to teach that to you. That's the first thing. The second thing, though, is even from when my kids were 3 years old and up, I always enjoyed taking them to a toy store to go buy something with their own money. And so when they would go to Target or Walmart or Barnes and Nobles, if they wanted to buy a book or something else, they're going to pay full retail for that. And they're going to say, okay, a book is going to cost me $16.95, or a stuffed animal is going to cost me $18. And so they would do that. But shortly after that, I said, okay, now I'm going to give you a different perspective. Why don't we now start going to garage sales? So literally from when my kids were 3, all probably up until maybe 10, I'd spend my Saturdays going to swap meets and garage sales for them to buy toys. Now here is the what's amazing about this. Number one is that there's 3 things actually. The first thing is that they noticed that they could get toys and knickknacks and gifts for mom and gifts for their siblings, stuff that they could buy new for relatively a fraction of the cost, right? So that was the first thing. They're like, okay, it all matters where you go shopping sometimes, right? I'm not telling you never to buy anything new, right? Sometimes it's a good thing, right, to buy new things. But they saw the value of buying things wholesale. The second thing, though, is negotiating. Is I had the kids go up to the person who's running the garage sale and negotiate for everything, right? And oftentimes they'd ask for a stuffed animal. They're like, how much for the stuffed animal? And they're labeled $1, and they're like, oh, I'll give it to you for free. But I can't tell you how many Hot Wheels sets and Pokemon cards and model planes that we got for like a nickel, when normally they would have paid 10, 15, 20 bucks for that. And so they really, really, really appreciate that. It's funny because a lot of times when we went to stores after that and they saw brand new things, they're like, why would I buy that here when I could buy it at this garage sale for free? But probably the most powerful thing was that we would go to these garage sales and you see how much crap people have, right? How much crap where people buy stuff and they never use it. And so that goes back, it's like, what are you spending your money? So it's not always about getting cheaper. Sometimes it's about not getting it at all. And I think that was the power of that, because they're like, oh my gosh, all this stuff that people have, it's eventually just going into the trash. So teach kids the value of money. I'll add more. One thing under that first point is sometimes, look, we buy our kids, some things, and sometimes our family goes out to eat. But one of the things that we do in the morning is sometimes we'll get breakfast burritos, right, for the family after swim practice. And these things are like monstrous. And I've got 4 kids. And literally, like after you eat the first half, like you almost instantaneously regret eating the second half, right? If you do that. So sometimes in the morning, we're like, okay, we're going to get 3 breakfast burritos and we're going to split them, and the kids are going to have a half each, which are just more than enough. And so sometimes the kids are like, I want a full one. I'll say, great. I said, you're more than welcome to buy a full burrito. And the funny thing is, with your own money. And the funny thing is that as soon as you put it back on them that they have to buy it, that they have to use it using their own money, they're like, no, I'll just stick with the half, right? Meanwhile, they probably shouldn't eat the second half anyway. So don't baby your kids. If you're doing well, don't think, oh, I'm giving them the stuff I never had. Your kids should have some necessities, and sure, you're going to buy them some nice things, but make sure they understand the value of money, right? Spoiling children rarely builds any kind of character, and they're better off otherwise. Okay. If they want that bad, then buy it a garage sale. Number 2 is always, if you are married, always talk about money in front of your kids. All right. So, the only thing that I don't talk about in front of my kids, sometimes if we were talking about a gift for the kids or how much we're going to spend on Christmas on each kid, right? We don't do that in front of them. But my financial situation in terms of the deals that I'm doing or how much a vacation cost, we talk about that. So today we were talking about booking a family vacation to Hawaii, and my wife was pulling up the tickets, and she was also pulling up the Airbnb that we're going to rent, and she was just running the tally there. And I was talking about that entire thing with my family, about how much that was going to cost. And that is not a private conversation, because I love my kids to hear about reality, because they are going to have to deal with this in the future, right? So why shield them from this? And it's also, good to see how mom and dad view that vacation, right? And by the way, I always tell my kids, like, if it's a lot of money for the vacation, I say, dad values experiences, right? I value this time with you. This is the most important thing that I could spend my money on in terms of not helping somebody else, right? And so, I don't keep that a secret. All right. Number 3, my kids do not get an allowance. I don't recommend that you give your kids allowance. Make them work for every cent. Do you know why? Because that's what they're going to have to do when they're adults. Now, my kids get a free roof over their head, right? We buy them their necessities, right? We buy them their clothes. We pay for all their sports. Obviously we go out to family dinners and they, they order their food. So of course we do that. And of course they get Christmas presents and all that. But I'm talking about, we do not give them an allowance just for allowance sake, because that does not happen. That's called welfare. And we don't do that. So we make them work for it. Now, what's cool is I love to give my kids knowledge, coaching, and leadership. That's what I like to give them. I'm not going to tell you that I'm never going to help my kid if they ever got in a jam, but I want to strengthen them. Okay, just like it is said that a chicken who's in an egg, who is trying to struggle and get out of that egg, you are not to help that chicken get out of that egg, right? These are like key muscles that they need to build to survive later in life. All right, so I also want them to see if they are, let's say, cleaning my cars. That's one of the things my daughter does. Or my son is breaking down boxes outside, or my other son is straightening up the back of the house. What it takes to earn money hourly. I want them to understand what that is like, and that oftentimes, this is a path, just the power dynamic, or not the value dynamic of running your own business versus working hourly, or maybe doing something else. But I like them to experience that, okay? And I'm going to talk about a little bit about how that's going to compare to entrepreneurship here later on. All right, so number 4 is I like them to understand what things cost. Because recently my daughter, she says, Dad, I want to go to Taylor Swift and I want floor tickets and they're $2,000. And she goes, will you buy them for me? And I said, no. And she goes, and I'm like, but you could spend your own money with you and I'll buy my own ticket, right? And she's like, I can't afford that. I said, I said, let's do this. Instead of saying, how can I afford, or if I can afford this, I say, how can you afford this? And so I sat down, I wrote a plan with her on how she can afford buying her Taylor Swift tickets for $2,200. And by the way, I told her if she did that, I would pay for the transportation there and the hotel. She would just have to pay for her own ticket and I would pay for my own ticket. Because $2,200, I believe you don't want to just, when they're this age, you don't want to just buy them that ticket. That's my opinion. You don't have to have the same one, but I want her to have to earn that. Needless to say, we put together a plan for her to do that. I don't know if she's going to do it or not, but it's funny because as soon as I put that responsibility on her, the creative juices started moving. And then she says to me, okay, I kind of have a rule in my house. I'm like, look, if you're going to buy something that big and that's frivolous, you have to have at least 10 times that amount of money in the bank. So basically I said, if you're going to spend $2,200 on a Taylor Swift ticket, you need to have $25,000 in the bank. So she's like, well, if I had $25,000 in the bank, I'm not sure I'd want to spend $2,200 on a Taylor Swift ticket. So lesson learned. I know my cell phone is going off in this episode and I'm just going to keep going. All right, so next is 5, field trips. So if you're doing real estate deals, have your kids and you're visiting properties, or you're visiting a professional, or you're visiting a CPA, or you're meeting with your employees, sometimes have your kids there. Let them hear you talk. Let them absorb the information. Okay. Recently I was at a tour of some of my mobile home parks and I brought my daughter and I hired her to do some video for me and some commentary, which was awesome because she got to earn some money. And also I got to spend some time with her and she got to learn. All right. 6. This is a good one. This one is a total game changer for me, is pay them to read books. So there are some business books that sometimes they're not going to just read on their own. So a couple of them I'll recommend to you. Richest Man in Babylon. That one's going to be a little bit for the older kids. It's got some like old world language in there, but that will really resonate. There is The Compound Effect. Again, that's for the older ones. For the younger ones, there's the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. And the keyword being teens. My younger one absolutely love that. And there's Do Hard Things. That's another one that I'll recommend. So by the way, if you also have recommendations, love to hear from you at Todd Toback. But if you're wondering, okay, how much do I pay my kids? I usually pay them about $35 to read those books. This is going to be one of the best investments ever for me in terms of their future longevity. Instead of having to give them or getting to give them $100,000 or $25,000 later for a down payment on a house, these books will pay those dividends for them and me. Because I knew they will do really, really, really big things. And hopefully I will be the one spoiling my grandchildren and they will be the ones teaching their kids all the skills. Okay, next is Dave Ramsey. This one's very practical, has some phenomenal high school education on personal finance. I recommend, so we homeschool, but there's some great resources that you can get. So I have my kids go through that as part of their high school program. Highly recommend you go. There's a DVD set and a workbook. So go ahead and check that out. Dave Ramsey High School Curriculum, phenomenal. 8, have real conversations with your kids about the cost of living. Okay, so the cost of living in terms of, I'm in California, and so I tell my kids, hey, look, it's going to be expensive when you're on your own to live here, right? So the average house is going to cost, I don't know, in California, $1 million, right? So how much is a mortgage payment going to cost on $1 million? And so for that, it's about $7,000 a month. So how are you going to be able to afford $7,000 a month? Well, that means for you to comfortably live here in California, you're going to have to make approximately $17,000 or $18,000 a month to live comfortably in California. Now, there are some people who make less than that, who bought their houses a long time ago, but I'm just telling them the reality of today. Prices of real estate could fall, for sure. You could live out of the area, which I hope they never do, but I'm just explaining the reality because I want them to be equipped. With that, we talk about college and the cost of college and the expected income that people can make. Look, money's not everything. So you may talk to your kids, and to some of my kids, money is not important to them at all, right? It's not like a huge driver. They just want to, there's one or two of them who I could tell just they want to do what they want to do, and money will be a secondary factor. And that's great, but you're probably listening to this podcast because you like to make it. So, the other two kids, they're like, yeah, I want to make as much money as I can. How do I do that? So have those tough conversations. 9 is teach them how to move money. So you want to, if they have any savings, teach them how to make it grow. Tell them that you want to teach their money how to reproduce, and that money to reproduce, and that money to reproduce, right? We call money having babies, right? Money having babies, and those babies having babies, and those babies having babies. Okay, so with this, number 10 is when it comes to the money and entrepreneurship, is let them use their personality and skills in their own way, okay, in combination with the lessons that you're teaching them. So I'm going to repeat that. Let them use their personality and skills in their own way in combination with what you're teaching them. So I don't need my kids to be a carbon copy of me. They're their own unique individuals, but you could give them certain soft skills that they'll be able to use anywhere. So one of my sons, he is he's a master of delayed gratification. He's less of a risk taker than dad, but I could tell this guy knows how to save for today to invest in tomorrow. And so it's funny because I had both my kids do a job, and I owed them both $20, and they both wanted to be paid today, but I only had $120 on me. So they were fighting over who was going to get paid today and who was going to get paid later. So I said, okay, I'll tell you what. I said, I got this 20. I said, whoever's willing to wait to get paid their 20, okay, I will, if you wait 2 weeks for dad to go to the bank, I will give you $21, and it will grow by $1 every 2 weeks that you wait. And so if you want to wait, that will be your compensation. And if you want to take the 20 now, you'll get the 20 now. So I had one said, I'll take the 20 now. My other son said, I'll take the wait on it deal. So needless to say, that was like 4 months ago. And I owe my son like, I don't know, $35 over this. And I'm like, I'm going to pay you. And he's like, no, Dad, you don't have to pay me. You just keep it going, keep it rolling. And so he is using it in his way. He knows how to delay gratification. And so he is more of the investor, which is awesome. And then there's my daughter, who I've taught her where she loves these collectible toys. And she paints them and makes videos of them, and she buys them and resells them. And what's cool is, like, I would never think that you would make money by buying these little toys and then putting them and reselling them on eBay and going to conventions and selling them, but she does. The cool thing is, I teach my daughter, I'm like, look, just like a house, you want to buy the inventory wholesale, and then you want to buy it and sell it retail. And so oftentimes she has gone quote unquote broke by buying a ton of inventory or paying vendor tickets, right, at these conventions, where her siblings are like, oh my gosh, how did you get down to zero? Where literally that money is just tied up in some inventory that she bought for wholesale. And when she resells it, she makes a ton of profit. So we get to share this in her language, and I get to teach her some skills in her way, which has been one of the most rewarding skills. Obviously, there's a lot more here, but I would love to hear how you're teaching your kids about money. I know today was a different episode, but I really, really, really enjoyed today's show. I'd love to hear from you. Remember to head over to nextlevelwholesaling.com, take that assessment, and I will talk to you on the next episode.